Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 66 based on novel. So let's start. After all, once a cultivator forms their nascent soul, they gain the right to fight the heavens. This right is very valuable, but it isn't enough. In order to fight the heavens, one must understand the heavens and the cycle of reincarnation. Only after one understands the law of the heavens can they find the way to defy the heavens. This type of thing is very mysterious. One either understands it or they don't. If one can't comprehend the heavens, then no matter how much spiritual energy they absorb, they will always be weak. It's like giving a baby a divine weapon. If they can't wield the weapon, it is still useless. If they use it by force, they will be able to harm the enemy, but they themselves will be hurt as well. Comprehending the heavens and obtaining a domain is what allows the baby to wield the weapon. This is the only way to obtain the ability to wield that power. Only after comprehending the heavens can one wield this power as if it were their own. As a result, this stage is called soul formation. Once one obtains the strength to wield this power, they have far surpassed mortals and other cultivators. They are an existence beyond humans because they have a divine soul. However, this soul isn't the normal type of soul in the records, it's a state of mind, a change of heart, a very mysterious realm. This realm is similar to the soul in the records, and that's how the soul formation stage came to be. But just having the power is not enough. Even if a baby has the strength to wield this power, it can't wield it for long. This is how the origin soul came to be. Once the baby grows up, it will naturally be able to store more power. This is the origin soul. In order to form an origin soul, one needs a domain and divine sense. Then they fuse together into the nascent soul and thus, a new soul is born. This is the origin soul. As for the power that could be used, that is the power of the heavens. Soul formation cultivators can use the power of the heavens, something that nascent soul cultivators can't use. The power of the heavens is the domain. Depending on the domain someone comprehends from the heavens, they will be able to display different powers of the heavens. At this moment, Wang Lin understood everything. He slowly looked at the land before him and, after a long time, his origin soul slowly sank back down. His origin soul returned to the cave and entered his forehead. It eventually fused back together with his body. At this moment, all of the spiritual energy in Wang Lin's body disappeared and fused with his origin soul. After a long time, Wang Lin slowly opened his eyes. These eyes were like those of a newborn baby's, with distinct black and white. There was also a hint of an aura. Wang Lin took a deep breath and raised his right hand. He casually grabbed with his hand and a rift in space appeared. Cold air blew out from the rift that seemed to be able to blow out life. Before, Wang Lin would only be able to open a rift in space this easily inside the land of the ancient god. Otherwise, he would have to use all of the spiritual energy in his body to barely succeed. This cold air was the life-extinguishing wind from the void. Nascent soul cultivators could just barely resist it, but core formation cultivators would have to stay far away from it unless they possessed a treasure that could resist it. Wang Lin was able to resist it before, but he would still feel very uncomfortable. However, if he were to go inside, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. This was also why back then, when the people he fought opened up a rift to run away, he didn't dare to chase after them. This cold air didn't have any effect on Wang Lin anymore. Even if his whole body were to go into the rift, it would no longer harm him at all. He faintly smiled as his right hand slowly entered the rift. When he withdrew his right hand, there were specks of light on it. Looking at these specks of light, Wang Lin crushed them after pondering for a while. He stood up and walked forward as the stone sealing the cave loudly opened. As he walked out of the cave, he saw that all of the members of the Shen Dao sect were kneeling on the ground, looking at his direction. Even some of the nearby cultivators not from the Shen Dao sect were present. They were kneeling as well. Wang Lin's gaze only took a moment to sweep past everyone. He saw a lot of people that he knew. His gaze suddenly locked onto one of the middle-aged men. The moment Wang Lin saw this person, he let out a faint smile. After he carefully looked at this person more, his smile became wider. Wang Lin mumbled to himself, 40 years to reach the late stage of foundation establishment, very good. That white-robed middle-aged man stared at Wang Lin, revealing a look of confusion. He felt like he knew this person, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't remember. Now that he saw this person looking at him, he immediately felt something. It was as if something inside him was awakening. An image flashed across his mind. It seemed like he used to be in the same sect as this person, but he immediately shook his head as this thought was too insane. He took a deep breath and immediately lowered his head. At this moment, an old nascent soul cultivator moved forward. He knelt before Wang Lin and asked, with a trembling voice, "Is Senior from Zhao?" The moment those words came out, all of the cultivators around held their breath. Their eyes were filled with excitement as they stared at Wang Lin. Even the middle-aged man raised his head and looked toward Wang Lin again. Wang Lin's current appearance was not that different from back then, but the aura around him was completely different, so it was no wonder people didn't realize it was him. But even if people did, they wouldn't dare to say it out loud. For a rank 3 cultivation country to become a rank 4 cultivation country, they need a soul formation cultivator that was born in that country. Rank 4 cultivation countries have a technique to verify this. This technique comes from Suzaku, so unless someone's cultivation level is higher than the cultivators of Suzaku, it is very hard to fake. And the most important part is that the soul formation cultivator must live in the country for 100 years before they can report to a rank 4 cultivation country to get their new rank. Obviously, Wang Lin couldn't accept this condition. After hearing the old man's words, Wang Lin pondered for a long time and said, "I'm from this country, but I'm unable to stay for 100 years. Sorry." The old man's body shivered and he revealed a disappointed look. All of the surrounding cultivators revealed the same expression. When expectations are too high, the amount of disappointment is even higher. Wang Lin let out a sigh. His right hand grabbed in the air, then 10 balls of light appeared. He threw them out and the 10 balls of light landed on 10 different cultivators. The 10 cultivators' bodies shook and they revealed painful expressions, but this pain didn't last long. After catching their breaths, they revealed joyous expressions. That white-robed middle-aged man was one of them. Wang Lin calmly said, "I can't stay, but I have left behind 10 spirit seeds. Although they won't make your cultivation any easier, once you reach the late stage of nascent soul, I'll naturally know and come to teach you." After he finished speaking, he looked at the white-robed middle-aged man again and let out a faint smile. The spirit seed he gave to the middle-aged man was different from everyone else's. It contained the power to save his life 3 times. These spirit seeds were something a soul formation cultivator formed using the power of the heavens. Their value was unimaginable. As the middle-aged man stared at Wang Lin, the sense of familiarity in his mind became even stronger, but just as he was about to remember, he suddenly felt pain in his head. This pain was much stronger than what he could handle. Just as he felt as if his mind would explode, a gentle power came from the spirit seed and the pain disappeared. His body trembled and was covered in sweat. A gentle voice in his head said, "Don't think about it anymore. Once you have reached the nascent soul stage, you will remember everything from the past. If you know now, it will only bring you pain." The person's body shook. When he raised his head, he noticed that Wang Lin was faintly smiling at him. Wang Lin took a deep breath and looked at the land before him. Unless special happens, he won't come back to Zhao until someone reaches the late stage of nascent soul. His body slowly rose into the air and gradually disappeared in the sky. On the ground, all of the cultivators raised their heads and revealed determined expressions. This was especially true for the middle-aged man. "I will reach the nascent soul stage. I will." Just at this moment, an object fell from the sky. Everyone looked at it and realized that it was a wood carving. The wood carving fell on top of the mountain and fused with it. Suddenly, the mountain felt like it was filled with spiritual energy. A voice from the distance said, "This object can save Zhao from the invasion of rank 3 cultivation countries 3 times. Be careful." With the tragic ending of the 4-sect alliance in mind, he did one last thing for Zhao. At some point in the few hundred years that followed, this wood carving saved Zhao from an invasion. The invading cultivators had already pushed Zhao to the limit, causing all of the Zhao cultivators to come kneel before the wood carving. The mountain shone before the mockery of all the invading cultivators, causing their attitude to change. When the light disappeared, all of the invading cultivators died Zhao, outside the Juming Valley. Everything was calm. It was as if the event of someone reaching the soul formation stage had never happened. In a few decades, the Juming Valley will open again for people to search for treasure in the foreign battleground. Wang Lin's figure appeared outside the valley and he looked down at it. He let out a sigh as he waved his right hand and a rift 3 feet long opened before him. If one looked closely, they would notice that this rift was located at the exact spot that Wang Lin self-destructed. After reaching the soul formation stage, Wang Lin's first goal was to reform the bag of holding that disappeared when he died. He didn't care much about most of the items in his old bag of holding, but he had to get that sword sheath back. As of now, he had already found 2 more sword sheaths and he believed that there was some type of secret within them. His body moved and appeared outside the rift. A powerful wind that could easily distinguish life came out of the rift, but it had no effect on Wang Lin. His right hand reached into the rift and he probed around for the item with his origin soul. Light slowly gathered in his hand and a bag of holding appeared. As Wang Lin spread out his divine sense, his gaze suddenly became serious. The bag was missing a lot of things, including the sword sheath. He pondered a little and guessed that it was because it had been so long that even though he reformed the bag of holding, some of the stuff was lost inside this spatial rift. But he had refined that sword sheath with his cold core, and now that he had reached the soul formation stage, he could faintly sense it. He pondered for a bit before stepping into the spatial rift. After he entered, the rift rapidly closed. It disappeared and the area outside the Juming Valley was quiet once again. The space within the rift wasn't empty, it was filled with an oppressive atmosphere and cold wind as well as countless things releasing different colored lights. There were even some pitch-black giant rocks floating around. Just as he entered this area, he felt like this resembled the space in Two-Size memory, only there were no stars here. Wang Lin waved his right hand and left a mark here. He quickly moved through this space like a meteor toward where he sensed the sword sheath. As he moved, various gaps in space appeared and tried to suck things in, but this suction force seemed to have no effect on the things inside this space. Gradually, Wang Lin's speed became faster and faster as he flashed through the space. In the distance, there was a sword sheath embedded in a black rock. This sword sheath was the one that belonged to Wang Lin. Around the sword sheath were 4 human-looking shadows. The 4 shadows were sitting around the sword sheath. They were cultivating as slivers of golden energy came out of the sword sheath and were absorbed by the shadows. When Wang Lin saw this from a distance, he suddenly stopped. His eyes were calm as he waved his right hand. Suddenly, the sword sheath shook and the inside of the black rock began to move. However, the 4 shadows suddenly turned to look at Wang Lin with their ghostly eyes. Wang Lin's eyes were calm and he didn't say a word. Seeing that the sword sheath was rising higher and higher and seemed to even be emitting a sound, mouths opened up on the shadows' faces to suck in more of the golden energy. At the same time, a shadow suddenly stood up. As he stood up, his body instantly grew into a giant black cloud that charged at Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he sneered. A mere ghost magic treasure. You don't know your place. With that, he pointed with his left hand and a beam of spiritual energy shot out from his finger. Although this spiritual energy wasn't powerful, it contained Wang Lin's domain. The feeling of death appeared as the spiritual energy entered the shadow. Under the power of the domain, the shadow's life quickly disappeared. That shadow let out a miserable scream as black gas flooded out of his body. If one looked closely, they would see a mysterious power surrounding the shadow, causing it to shrink. Within a few breaths, it completely disappeared. However, the moment it was about to disappear, Wang Lin shot out another beam of spiritual energy that entered the dissipating shadow, causing it to reform and transform into a statue of a demon. This statue was based on a monster known as Yu from Two-Size memory. This was formed through his life and death domain. Right after it appeared, it let out a roar and charged at the 3 remaining shadows. Wang Lin's body still hadn't moved as his origin soul was still emerged inside his life and death domain. He controlled the statue he had created through his domain. This was the first time Wang Lin had used a real soul formation technique that uses the power of the heavens. As for the very powerful techniques, there weren't many universal techniques for soul formation cultivators. All of the techniques are based off one's own domain and are created by themselves. The 3 shadows around the sword sheath let out screeches. One of them jumped into the sword sheath and flew away with it. As for the other 2, they turned with their ghostly gazes and jumped at the statue. One of the shadows exploded into countless black slivers and entered the statue from all directions. The other shadow used this chance to get past the statue and jumped at Wang Lin. At this moment, its eyes gave off a demonic aura. Wang Lin's gaze was calm as he gently pointed at his brow. His origin soul came out as he coldly looked at the shadow and reached out with his right hand. When the shadow saw the origin soul, it let out a scream and turned around to escape without any hesitation. However, it was far too slow, so it was caught by Wang Lin. It struggled and screamed as it was swallowed by Wang Lin's origin soul. As for the escaping sword sheath, it was not moving in a straight line but zigzagging. It was clearly trying to avoid Wang Lin's teleportation. Wang Lin let out a sneer. His origin soul disappeared and became part of this space. It was as if he could clearly see where the sword sheath was going. The origin soul silently appeared next to the sword sheath and grabbed it, then returned to Wang Lin's body. This was the instant movement ability soul formation cultivators could use by fusing with the heavens. Not every soul formation cultivator could use this, but it was far more powerful than the teleportation nascent soul cultivators could use. When Wang Lin devoured the shadow, he absorbed its memories as well. This shadow was created by a powerful cultivator by splitting off parts of his obsessions. Then he placed them here to be refined by the cold wind so they could become souls for magic treasures. These obsessions didn't have much intelligence. They found the sword sheath by chance as they wandered around. They felt some strange fluctuations from the sword sheath and began cultivating around it. Holding the sword sheath, Wang Lin's right hand pointed at the statue. Suddenly, the shadow that entered the statue collapsed and turned into spiritual energy as it dissipated. As for the shadow hiding inside the sword sheath, it was forced out by Wang Lin. He grabbed the shadow, sent some spiritual energy into his hand, and the shadow collapsed. He killed the 4 shadows so that none of them could return to their owner to tell him what happened. Wang Lin's body moved and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was where he left the mark. He opened up another rift and entered it. He appeared outside the Juming Valley. He didn't pause for a moment and quickly flew away. 1 month later, Wang Lin walked out of a transfer array far away from Zhao. He muttered, with the appearance of the rain cauldron, the opening of the heavens gate shouldn't be far away. Although I have just reached the soul formation stage and am still far from the soul transformation stage, there is still a chance. Once I reach the soul transformation stage, Sichu Nan will be able to wake up. He once said that he was the #1 cultivator in Suzaku, so he must know about the cultivation planet crystal. He should be able to help me obtain this treasure. It's just that I don't know if I can also revive Mom and Dad once I reach the soul transformation stage, but my domain is the life and death domain. The more I understand the reincarnation cycle, the more I understand how difficult it is to go against it. This goal of reviving my parents will be very difficult to achieve. Wang Lin let out a sigh. Forget it. Let's worry about this later. If there really is no way to revive them, then I'll find them a place to re-enter the reincarnation cycle. This affection is still not repaid. At this moment, Wang Lin still needed to refine another restriction flag. There was only 1 ink stone left, so he had to use it carefully and could not let it be damaged. Wang Lin had tried to repair the damaged restriction flag, but wasn't able to. It could now only be used to summon the divine retribution. In addition to all of this, although I have already reached the soul formation stage, I have far too few magic treasures. The celestial realm could open up any time now, so I must be prepared. I must obtain this celestial spiritual energy. Wang Lin made a decision and removed the thought of returning to Chu for now. He immediately stopped and thought for a while, then clenched his teeth and slapped his bag of holding. The mosquito beast immediately came out and circled him a few times. Wang Lin jumped onto the back of the beast and sent out a message to the mosquito. The mosquito let out a sound as it waved its proboscis, but it didn't move forward. Instead, it looked as if it were trying to please Wang Lin. This expression looked very strange on this beast. If anyone else were to see this, they would be terrified. After all, this beast just looked too scary. Wang Lin faintly smiled. He took out a few pills and threw them forward. The mosquito beast immediately revealed a smile and flew forward and devoured the pills. Just like this, Wang Lin continued to throw out pills and the mosquito beast kept flying forward. Soon, that bottle of pills was empty. Wang Lin rubbed the beast's head and said, "Okay, you little brat. No more pills for you today. If you fly faster today, I'll give you more tomorrow." The mosquito beast let out a roar as it moved like lightning across the sky. Along the way, Wang Lin felt rather pleased. His revenge was complete and his cultivation level had reached a new height. This made him feel very happy. Wang Lin let out a laugh that filled the heavens. The mosquito beast below him seemed to notice this and roared with him. As the two voices became louder and louder, they caused the cultivation country below them to become very alert. Several divine senses came to check, but the moment they noticed Wang Lin's cultivativation level and the beast below him, they immediately withdrew and didn't dare to disturb them. At this moment, in a human city in the cultivation country below Wang Lin, a messer-looking old man with a smile on his face said to a little foundation establishment cultivator, "Little brother, I see that you are very talented and filled with energy. You are by no means a normal person. However, without guidance, I'm afraid you have no hope in reaching the core formation stage." The little cultivator stared at the old man and shouted, "Scram, if you keep blocking my path, don't blame me for being merciless." The messy old man said, "TSK TSK, and pointed at the sky toward Wang Lin. "You see him? That little kid was only at nascent soul cultivator when I met him, but now he has reached the soul formation stage. How about it? Do you want me to call him down to prove it to you? The little cultivator let out a cold snort and looked at the black dot that had already flown into the distance and said, "Scram." With that, he pushed the old man aside and walked away. The old man let out a sigh and revealed a look of regret before immediately running to the cultivator with a bunch of tokens in hand and said, "Little brother, I have tokens for the 8 great sects of Sangmi, even sect head tokens. These are powerful items to protect yourself. If anyone dares to mess with you, just throw one out and tell them to scram." Wang Lin did not see this, but as he finished laughing, he took out a wood carving from his bag of holding. This wood carving was of the old man with the passing of time domain. He moved his left hand and a ball of golden light appeared. Then he bit the tip of his finger to draw a drop of blood before fusing it with the golden light and pushed it into the wood carving. Suddenly, the wood carving shook. Now there was an extra blood vein moving within the carving. If one looked closely, there wasn't just one, but more than 30 of these blood veins inside the carving. These blood veins were all moving and often flashed past each other without coming into contact. This was the result of Wang Lin's practice in the past several days. Time quickly passed and in the blink of an eye, 1 month had gone by. Wang Lin sat on the back of the mosquito beast as they passed through one transfer array after another before finally reaching the Sea of Devils. In the past few decades, there had been constant war inside the Sea of Devils. With the attacks of several cultivation countries and the retaliation of the demonic cultivators, the war had reached a stalemate. Wang Lin's goal was the land of the ancient god. After obtaining the inheritance of memory, he had a technique that would allow him to enter and leave the place at will. Wang Lin thought for a long time. Only there would he be able to complete the restriction flag without triggering divine retribution that would destroy the flag. Aside from that, there were a lot of spirit beasts and even desolate beasts there. Wang Lin wanted to catch one. He wanted to do everything to prepare himself for when the gate opens to the Rain Celestial Realm. He even had plans to visit the foreign battleground to gather enough wandering souls. Wang Lin predicted that as long as he doesn't enter the first trial, Ta Sen won't be able to detect him. Even if Ta Sen could, with Wang Lin's cultivation level, he would still be able to leave before getting caught. Now that he had this idea, he put on the straw hat he got from the messy old man and charged directly toward the land of the ancient god. Under the effect of the straw hat, some of the weaker cultivators didn't even dare to obstruct him and let him pass through. The war in the Sea of Devils never stopped. Although there weren't any large-scale battles like many years ago, there were still small fights occurring everywhere. However, all of these fights were controlled, so only core formation cultivators and below participated. Nascent soul cultivators rarely entered these fights. It seemed that both sides were storing their power for the next big fight. Thus, no one bothered to stop Wang Lin at all. Although some soul formation cultivators spread out their divine senses, once they noticed Wang Lin, they let him pass. Wang Lin's speed was very fast. If there were any beasts that dared to block his path, the mosquito beast would rush up and devour their core. After several days of passing through transfer arrays, he arrived at the inner part of the Sea of Devils. Just as he walked out of the transfer array, he noticed a battle nearby. After checking it with his divine sense, he no longer cared about it and took out his map jade. He checked his current location before moving again. The chaotic broken stars were 100,000 miles to the east. As he flew, he suddenly frowned as he noticed a red cloud charging towards him. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He knew that in the Sea of Devils, strength was everything. If he showed weakness, people would eat him alive. As he thought of this, a cold aura began to emit from his body. In the blink of an eye, the red cloud got closer. Inside the red cloud was a mysterious beast. The beast looked like a dragon turtle, but there was no spike on its back. Instead, there was a half-moon horn that released a ghostly light. This beast's body was very big. On its back was an old man wearing a grey robe with a large, red gourd on his side. After seeing the beast and old man, he immediately remembered who this was. This was the person who had left a restriction on him back then and told him to go to the treasure refining pavilion. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, but he immediately calmed down as he looked at the old man with a cold gaze. The old man quickly arrived before Wang Lin and looked at him before revealing a surprised expression. Wang Lin could feel that the old man's divine sense was driven back by the golden light from the straw hat. The old man stared at Wang Lin. He was shocked. After looking at the straw hat for a bit, the old man slapped the dragon turtle below him. The dragon turtle quickly moved past Wang Lin and headed east. At this moment, even the old man became cautious as this mysterious person was covered in a golden light that caused even his divine to back away in pain, so he didn't want to offend Wang Lin. And in his view, for someone to have this kind of treasure, they must at least be at the soul formation stage. He didn't want to start a fight with a soul formation cultivator for no reason. Wang Lin frowned as he saw that the old man was headed east. He pondered for a bit before moving east as well. 4 soul formation cultivators who had mastered shift movement, which was much more powerful than nascent soul cultivators' teleportation, by becoming one with the earth, 100,000 miles wasn't much. Soon, Wang Lin saw the unique rings of the chaotic broken stars. The ring continued to move in a mysterious way according to some ancient formation that was set here long ago. However, Wang Lin felt that the rings were different from before. There was a mysterious power from the heavens that didn't belong in this world that allowed the rings to produce avatars far more powerful than the ones before. The old man was no longer on top of the dragon turtle. He was looking at the chaotic broken stars. He seemed to notice Wang Lin's arrival but only took one look at him before withdrawing his gaze. According to Wang Lin's speed, the old man was sure that Wang Lin was a soul formation cultivator. Wang Lin's gaze was calm. After pondering for a while, he found a place to sit down. Although he closed his eyes and appeared to be cultivating, his divine sense was still on guard. He wanted to see what the old man's real goal was. If the old man was going into the land of the ancient god too, he wouldn't go in first but wait until after the old man had entered. The old man looked at Wang Lin again and suddenly said, "Since fellow cultivator is here too, then I believe you are here to collect some aurora fire. How about the 2 of us enter together?" Wang Lin's expression remained the same, but his heart shook as he wondered what this aurora fire was. There was nothing about it in the memories from Tu Sai, and Wang Lin's own cultivation path hadn't been short either, but he had never heard of this aurora fire. He made his voice sound more husky and laughed. "I'm not interested in teaming up." The old man let out a snort and carefully looked at Wang Lin before turning back toward the ring of the chaotic broken stars. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.